It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. I'm Rob Murphy. We're back in the Sports Ground. Connacht have lost 15 points to 14 in a silly defeat. Alan Deegan, welcome along.
Hi, Rob.
I changed my tone there. I was a bit too enthusiastic on the first. I think I got it right there. That's the right tone for that performance. David.
This sort of game with absolutely nothing on it for us, but lost in the last minute. Picking the right tone. You can't be too enthusiastic, but at the same time, you can't be too funereal. I think you're getting there.
Yeah, just around the midway point of a mood level. To sum up, what was a all-round scrappy display, where Edinburgh came with so much on the line and they found a way to win. Lindley Mackenzie, welcome along.
Good evening, Rob.
Good evening. Well, it is a nice clear evening. It's like the evening never happened. It's a different day here.
And the rain has gone and it's dried, and so, it looks much better now than what it did a few minutes ago or half an hour ago.
The conditions are actually like they were part of a set in a play, and the play is finished now, so we can stop the wind and rain because it's all just disappeared. It's a beautiful evening. This ground, this weather. Anyways, look, can't blame the weather, Alan, can we? No, don't think so. We can blame a lot of things.
No.
What are you blaming? What's the chief culprit in this defeat tonight?
Playing the last 15 or 20 minutes with 14 men.
Interesting. Dave, any change in the key reason Connacht lost this evening?
Oh, not that, but it's part of a general brain fartiness that overcame us in the last 20 minutes.
Brain fartiness. Look it up in the dictionary. Connacht are somewhere close to it at times this season. Lindley Mackenzie, anything to add?
Yes, I think it's all mental. I think the fact that they've already qualified for the Champions Cup, I think it's all a combination of things. They've already qualified for the Champions Cup. They had players out there, some who really wanted to make an impression, the younger fellas. Yeah. And then you did have, obviously, the red card. That's always going to affect a game. But I think it was a combination of reasons.
Yeah, interesting you should say that, because I have this theory, Alan. I've said this to you before. I said it beforehand. I thought Edinburgh were going to win tonight because when one team has a requirement of a win for their objectives and another team doesn't have that requirement, just to take on Lindley's point, it just felt like if this game's a one-score game, they're going to need it more.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been a one-score game had we been playing with 15 men for the last 5 times. They keep going back to it, and especially when there's a situation where the TMO made that decision, brought the attention to it, but there was at least one other decision where the TMO should have been brought the attention to, over an elbow to the face of Sean O'Brien on a couple of occasions. And why wasn't that brought? It's the same thing. It's if it's a red card, when the head comes into it, ball carrying by one of the Edinburgh players. So why wasn't that brought back? Yeah,
and a key high tackle on Caelan Blade at another point in time. But at the same time, one or two smaller decisions went the other way.
Against Munster too, as well. Remember, there was a high arm on
Jack Carty.
Carty. I suppose that is. It's very difficult. It's very difficult when one person is watching it in game time.
Yeah.
To actually sometimes pick everything up, but
that's why it gets frustrating.
Exactly.
There was one moment there in just to come back to you, Lindley. There was a TMO moment during the first half, I think it was, where an Edinburgh player came down on top of Dennis Buckley, and there was a nothing incident. I cannot believe they took time to look at it, and that's where you start to lose confidence in the officiating team that they wasted time with that.
You look at the game today. There was Dan Bigger tried to tackle Eoghan Meyer, which means he's a braver man than me, and they spent 5 minutes looking at it and eventually went, we can't see anything, and they said we can't, and here what really funny was Wayne Barnes said, I can't see anything because of the graphics on the screen, and you're there thinking, well, why, if you can't see anything, don't even bother, just get on with the game.
But just it's so true. But on that point, Alan, like that was 2 minutes of a forensic look at a nothing incident that you should have had a sense straight away there's nothing to this.
Yeah, because we couldn't figure it out. I've got the laptop here in the background, so it's about 40-50 seconds behind, and a couple of guys come in to look at it and go, what are they looking at? We can't figure it out.
They couldn't look at the high challenge on Caelan Blade, or
I often wonder if in these cases that during a game there should be no yellow cards or red cards, so to speak, and then in hindsight, when you look at the match, when the match officials then look at the replays, and if they see that, they could then be yellow carded or red carded the following week.
Can I point to a sport where this happens, and that is Australian rules football, and there's still huge controversies over it because there's no consistency, and some guys, if you we're back to the taking a plea and the getting time off type thing, and if you say, actually, that didn't happen, I disagree with your decision, you actually get it, and they say, well, you did, they actually extend your ban. So that is all.
And anyone is
is there a case then when they look back on games, if they are dangerous, for the person then to be sanctioned after it.
Can I-
All I'm saying is there a case
Do you know
for
what?
it?
Do you know what? Here's my thing, right? Listen, officials out there, come on our podcast. We'd love to have you on. Here's my fear. I feel that there isn't, this is my gut feeling, there isn't a lot of introspection going on among officials. I think there's a sense of righteousness that's just a little bit too far above average than where it should be. And I don't think they're critically assessing something that I just described. The 3 minutes that was spent on that line-out review are an absolute disgrace. And they might say, but no, we came up with there was no decision. It proves our point that when other things were missed, that was not officiated well in the TMO box tonight or by the whole team. And that's our point. And I think if you got that sense, Alan, that they are introspectively looking over things and getting better, you'd feel better. Of course they can make mistakes.
Yeah. Go on. Yeah. No, Dave, you've got something there.
Well, no, it's more a case of you look at that incident, that involved a leg injury. Now, I'm not saying, I do think there is a big, rugby's going to have to face up to a very serious fact right now, which is that of all the red cards I've seen in the last 6 weeks, not one of the players who was hit in the red card official has been forced off the pitch. Even tonight, where the guy did go off for a blood injury, he came back on later for another player.
But this is all about prevention, though.
I know it's all about prevention, but the assumption is that only injuries that really need to be the only areas of that can cause serious injuries in the long run are head injuries. Now, I'm not saying we don't do that. I'm saying yes, keep doing what you're doing, but don't assume that that's the only type of injury that can happen. There are other instances. Now, it could have been that the injury was quite serious. It could have been, but
I feel like we're going to get bogged down in that. But I see your point.
It's just either say that if you just made it simple, a very simple, clear-cut rule, and I think this could be applied to a lot of other sports with rules that are contentious, simply say, you touch the head. Don't go yellow, just go red card, hits the head. Don't worry. The suspension might be for even if it's a red card, just for that game. That's where you bring in your grading.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But let me get back on track, right? Anyone leading with an elbow should be red carded. It's brilliant to take it out of the game. All for it. Anyone making contact to the head, first point of contact in the tackle. Alan, do you want to just go on your rant on if someone says, they're getting too soft, well, that's difficult to do. Players can't get low enough. Maybe you go on your rant and you'll finish my point.
Well, when I was learning to tackle, you tackle the legs. You run with your legs. You don't run with your head. You don't run with your shoulders. You run with your legs.
It's sympathetic with a Jared Butler in this situation.
Oh God, no, absolutely not. No, I'm slightly. It's a red card that changes the game. It's an absolute red card. There's no question. He hits him in the head with his shoulder.
No intent, but just bad technique.
Doesn't matter. It's bad technique.
It's going to make the game safer because they learn.
Even their guy dipped a little. I don't care. You dip a little bit more.
Think back to the World Cup when Warburton got that famous red card at a key time. Yep. It was at a time when these tackles were in the game. How often do you see those type of tackles now? You don't see them. Why do you not see them? Because they burst of red cards and it sorted it out. And I think we need more of that. So this isn't a problem with the call there. It's just a problem with the consistency of the officials and how they're implementing it. I think that's our overview. You're going to hear in the post-game press conference, Dave, if you want to add something, do. But I'm just going to say you're going to hear in the post-game press conference from Andy Friend and Eoghan Masterson. And I specifically asked Eoghan Masterson what it's like for players in this type of environment at the moment. The psychology of trying to wonder with everything being forensically analysed. We'll go to the press conference after Dave makes his final point.
Very simple point is Alan's absolutely right. Tackle around the ankles, but then watch them worry when tacklers are getting hit with knees and hips. They're very.
That only happens with bad technique.
Yeah, well,
it's only bad technique.
There's been some very bad techniques.
And by the way, before we go to the press conference, let's have a little bit of the match.
Ooh. It's a good job someone's producing this podcast. There's some of the game. How much of it, though?
No.
Not much. No. Very little. Marmion gets it out to Daly. There's a decoy runner, and coming behind him is Carty. He gets it out to the fullback. Alex Wootton is going for yet another try. What a tackle to stop Wootton scoring what seemed like a certain try. It's still on though. Marmion, Sean O'Brien, and the man from County Kildare has got in over the line and scored the try. What a way to mark a start in the number 13 jersey for Sean O'Brien. Wootton was almost in. O'Brien gets in. It's been a thrilling start for Connacht in this one here at the sports ground. 4.5 minutes gone, 5 points to nil. Where is the target in this line out? It is towards the front. It's Prendergast again. It's a good transfer of the ball down to the back. It's a very tight unit driving towards the Edinburgh line. Surely this will get over. It will get over. Will they get the touchdown? It's Della Hunt trying to get it. He has got it. Connacht have got another try. They're second of the game. Niall Murray almost turned it over again, but he didn't. Edinburgh have the ball. The maul is set. Connacht are in real bother now. 5 metres from their line. The maul is driving infield. This is the last play of the game, barring any more penalties. Edinburgh have to get the try. I think they're going to have to use this. They're not going to drive over. Out it comes from Paragos. Connacht push up and they need to make the tackle. Sean O'Brien makes a great tackle. Chamberlain behind the gain line. Chamberlain's going for the try. Chamberlain scores under the post and Edinburgh have won the game. All right, Andy. Yet another strange result in a strange season. Really, it's hard to kind of make sense of some of these games that slip away from Connacht, but that one is probably one of the harder ones to take.
It is, Rob. But we had 3 opportunities to really shut that game out, and we buggered them all up. We somehow survived the first 2, and then the last one was the one that ended up right on the backside. So just disappointing, because I think in an area of our game that we've done well recently with how we've managed the game. You think back to our last minute win against Benetton, and I thought the way we managed that was very good. I thought a lot of our stuff in previous games, the way we've hung out there or hung in there and closed our games, has been very good. But tonight it wasn't, and we paid the ultimate penalty.
Rugby is a strange game when one team has a huge amount riding on a result and the other doesn't. Like, there's no point of kind of, mixing that up. Like, it's straightforward. Edinburgh had to win to keep their Champions Cup alive. Connacht didn't have to win. Is that a factor in the closing stages and how Connacht approached the game? If Connacht still had to get the points to secure a Champions Cup place, do you think Connacht would have finished the game differently?
Oh, listen, possibly it's human nature, isn't it? We did talk at the front end of the game, like, the results that were last weekend and then last night meant that we are secure in that Champions Cup. We can't go higher than second in our conference. We can't drop lower than second in our conference. We can't move higher than 4th overall, nor drop for more than 4th overall. But the key point there was we are therefore a top 4 side. And if we're a top 4 side, we've got to go and play like a top 4 side. And there tonight, I didn't think we played like a top 4 side. So that's the bit that hurts us, because at the end of the day, there is always something to play for. It's your pride, it's your province, it's the people beside you, it's the performance you put out there. And we didn't do that to the best of our ability tonight, which is disappointing.
12 of the 15 missed tackles in the first half came from Connacht, and it was like only on 40%. They only had 40% possession. What's at play there for you?
Yeah, see, that's been another area we've been very good, but we knew they were physical. But again, I thought we were slow with our fold. I thought we were poor with our setup in our ABC. We talked about that at half time. We're probably better in the second half. But again, Masterson is our defence leader, so I'm sure he'll have a view on it too. But certainly the messaging that came from Eoghan and Pete Wilkins at the front end of the game was, we've got to start strong, boys. This is an area that we pride ourselves on. We are at home. It's our fortress. We've got to get off the line. We've got to get our bodies in front. We didn't seem to do it. So, it's something we need to address and make sure we get it right for the next week.
3 questions in now, but like, the biggest moment in the game has to be the red card. Would you agree with that? Any thoughts on it?
Listen, it's a big moment. There are other big moments that seem to get missed, but that one is a big moment, and it's your skipper, and he's going off. He's obviously very apologetic and disappointed with that, but it does hurt you when you go down to 14 men. So I thought we were actually brave to fight. And, I thought the fight we put out there after he went off was very good, but at the end of the day, though, we didn't do enough. So it was a significant moment in the game.
It kind of leads to forensic analysis of other moments, maybe players leading with the forearm and things like that we're hearing. That's something you're going to go over afterwards, but is that frustrating when certain things get analysed in minute details and other things? I think we saw Caelan Blade take a high tackle, a seatbelt tackle at a key point that was missed as well.
That's a disappointing thing. All you want as a coach is a spectator to do those things. So, one's given and there's 2 or 3 missed on the other side. Well, it doesn't seem right. So that's we're human and errors are made. I'm not going to complain about it. There's games going at the moment.
Just on to the Scarlets Monday week. Like, it would be typical of this season that Connacht go from that misfiring efforts to just throwing the ball around and playing brilliantly over there. Wouldn't be beyond you by any means. I presume that's what you need now.
Yeah, we as we just talked about in the shed there, we've still got a lot to play for. We're in a Challenge Cup. We know we've got Leicester Tigers away 2 weekends after that. We know we've got a Rainbow Cup coming up as well. So lots and lots to play for us, and that's why every performance is really important. So that was our last my party message to the players in the sheds there. Listen, we can't change that result out there now. What we can do is get ourselves right and ready for our next opportunity, which is against the Scarlets over there in Wales. So let's make sure we're ready for that one.
Oh, no, I can't imagine how frustrating it is to come off the field and losing a game like that. Maybe just give our listeners a kind of a sense of what the dressing room is like and how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when they score a try under the post and they need a conversion to win, it's pretty deflating. So yeah, as you can imagine, the dressing room was quite quiet and just very frustrated with. I don't think Edinburgh played particularly better than us. I just think if a bit of decision making towards the end really cost us, which is really, really frustrating. I think we got to a stage where we had the ball close to our try line with about 3 minutes to go, and that's kind of a grey area between, do you keep the ball and run the clock down, but then obviously you're at the mercy of the referee penalising you for sealing off, and they're trying to Edinburgh probably try and get the ball back there and reward the So I thought we were very close to sealing the game, and then I think they got a jack and turnover on the left wing as we were playing, and managed to go line out, just about won it. We gave away another penalty at the ruck, and then they went to the corner. We dealt with them all, and then they scored off the face after the ball. So yeah, incredibly frustrating.
Just on your thoughts on Jared Butler's red card, in a more general sense, how hard is it for players at the moment? There's a lot of analysis on every detail. You do a lot in the game. How tough is it? Do you find it gets frustrating from a player's perspective? I mean, there's no question the contact was to head and a straightforward call, but just from your own perspective, how difficult is it that these things are being analysed in such detail now?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's way more cards in the game than there ever has been before. I can't speak on Jared's incident because there's no big screens in the grounds at the moment, so I haven't seen it at all. But I think we practice good technique all the time. We practice getting low, and if we are coming in with a double shot, we're very conscious not to lead with the shoulder. You can't tuck your arm at all. You can't enter with the elbow. Is very risky, and we probably try and target the ball. If then I suppose I haven't seen Jared, but if someone dips or leads with their head and they make contact with your shoulder, it's all up for interpretation. So it can be. I can imagine from Jared's point of view, it's very frustrating. Like I'd say 90% of red cards are non-intentional, and thankfully I haven't been on the receiving end of one yet. But there's definitely more cards in the game than there ever has been, and feel sorry for a lot of these guys for getting red cards, and especially when there's no intent.
Oh, and this season feels a bit different than other seasons for so many reasons, because there's been some spectacular performances, there's been some really solid wins, there's been heartbreak as well, and then there's been some poor performances in these kind of conditions. This has happened before. Just maybe make sense of it, and what have Connacht got to do for you to put this out of the mind, and maybe just kind of see out the season without too many more nights like this?
Yeah, well, the mood would be very different. If you can imagine Niall Murray had two hands on that ball, 5 meters on the line, and if he held on to that, we'd be saying we were very resolute towards the end. We defended incredibly well with 14 men for 20 minutes. So that doesn't hide from the fact it's incredibly frustrating that we lost, because some of our decision making was very poor, and we still acknowledge that. But I don't think there's any major issues. Like in a standard season now, if we finish second, we'd be looking forward to a home quarter final. We'd back ourselves here with the fans here to beat anyone in a home quarter final, and then we've a semi final, and we've shown we can beat anyone. Our away form's been very good this year. So in a normal season, we'd be very excited right now. That's my thoughts at the moment. I don't think there's any major issues that we need to iron out. The major issue tonight was just that decision making towards the end and how to finish out the game.
All right, back here. Lindley, it was interesting just hearing from all Masterson and the lads there. I mean, look, end of the day, they're disappointed. But, you know, if they were to turn it around with a better performance against the Scarlets, and by word, if they were to produce what we're all hoping to produce away to Leicester and get the win that is long overdue in England, this will be long forgotten. You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, look, it's very hard for any team once they've achieved what they set out to achieve.
To end the season feel like,
absolutely. And the fact is that the team was changed up and around to give players who hadn't had much opportunity the opportunity. So it's the perfect time to do it. It's the perfect time to bring on the Sean O'Brien or the on McNulty, you know. And if they'd had the team possibly from last week, would it have made a difference? Possibly, because they're used to playing together, the whole rhythm. But that's not going to help Connacht in the future or next season. So, look, it's probably disappointing that the thing about it is that they actually should have won their game. in the circumstances, given the fact that they actually had the winning of that game right up until injury time.
Yeah.
So really they should have, at that stage, they should have won it. And that's probably a disappointing aspect. But I wouldn't get too uptight about losing when you had a much changed team and the opportunities that were given to those young players. And I think that's more important for the long-term future.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do for the rest of this podcast. So first of all, I want you to quickly think about some of the things that went wrong there and only talk about them if you feel they're relevant to the rest of the season. If you feel it was just tonight, if you feel it was a bit of learning curve, a couple of young players, things, let it go, because that's what Blenny's saying and I tend to agree. And then I want to finish the podcast with picking out some of the positives. So we loved Niall Murray's play in those closing stages. As old Masterson said there, he was so close to robbing that line out at the end. And that would have been a crowning glory of a performance from him. And we'd be saying, geez, with 14 men for 22 minutes, didn't Connacht do well to hold out in the end? But it didn't work out that way. But Alan, anything in particular in the way that game finished that says, you know what, I'm worried about that for the bigger picture?
Not really, because it was a horrible night. It was a horrible game. We started off really well. We had huge amounts of enthusiasm, and all the young guys were mad. And actually, yeah, there is something coming to it now. The vocal, you could hear them on the field. Everyone was shouting. It was vocal. The guys on the sideline were vocal. But as the game went on and got closer, our guys became less vocal, both on the field and on the sideline, whereas the Edinburgh guys, both on the field and on the sideline, got more and more vocal. And that could be down to that thing where they had more to play for, and it could be that part of it, that there was something, they wanted it more a little bit, and you could hear it in just the noise levels. I actually recorded a couple of bits of it, which we might just drop in.
Drop it in there.
Yeah.
It's kind of an example of the noise, because it was coming through on our commentary too. Coming out of that, Dave, anything in particular, because I want to ask something William was on about in the commentary. Your thoughts there, just anything that's kind of jumping out you there that you're going, yeah, this is part of a bigger problem.
I thought we got over it. I really thought we'd stop this making life unnecessarily hard for ourselves in the last 5 minutes of games, especially when we're 3-5 points up. We don't, and this is not unique to Andy Friend. This is not unique actually to the 15-23 that are out there. This seems to be a consistent problem over the last 7-8 years for Connacht, which is that when it comes to these types of games, against these types of, not against your, it doesn't happen against in tight. Well, it does happen. It doesn't happen. It hasn't been happening here, but there has been a way where we just seem to, in the last, say, there's 90 seconds to go, we'll give away a penalty, or we'll have a scrum and we'll make a mistake. We'll make life unnecessarily hard for ourselves, and ultimately the reason we lost that game is because we made life unnecessarily hard for us. We gave away a penalty, we then gave away a second penalty. We're not boring. We don't boringly finish games. Now that means we're very exciting, and I mean you do get situations like last year with Robin Copeland, but we just don't. We very rarely either kill a game with 20 minutes to go, but if it's very tight. We have a tendency to let to, and I thought we got out of it, but it's slipping back in again. And that would be, and again, it's not specific to the guys who are out there tonight. I think they were, for 20 minutes they played really well with 14 men, but it's just that last 90 seconds, especially the bit when it went into the red, that really would annoy you.
Okay, I nearly want to bring up Jack Carty's wild pass inside his own. I've never seen anything like that, actually, when a team's leading the game. But anyways, look, I'm not even going to get into that because, look, it was a moment in time. Linny, I want to ask you what William was talking about was, when are Connacht going to figure out these conditions? This is strange, and it's only this season, I would argue.
Oh, look, I sit up there and I'm still freezing cold, and I've been sitting here for God, I'm not going to say how many years I've been sitting up here for, and I still don't have enough warm clothes on when I come here.
The conditions in New Zealand are probably like this sometimes too, in fairness. But having said that, we're not figuring it out, are we?
Well, I'm not really sure how to answer that question.
Oh.
I mean,
you're saying William's wrong. Good job, he's over there. Can't talk.
No, in the sense that there's ways to win a game that is obviously being directed the way that Connacht should play by the coaches. How to win a game. Now, is there enough experience within that team to have to think on their feet to change the tactics or change the way they play the game. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But no, well, I'm
Well,
not
in the
sure.
starting lineup tonight, you think there should
Yeah, even in the starting lineup, I just wonder.
And with your captain off the field,
Yeah. I think there
No,
might be
I just wonder, like, if you look at the last play, and I'm going to bring it up here because Christopher O'Neill on Twitter got onto us about it. When McNulty got the ball with 12 seconds to go, there had been a knock-on just before it. So had that been missed,
I think
like,
he's right there.
when he got the ball, but the point I'm going to make about Eoghan is he's making his debut. He wants to do something. When he got tackled, he should have let them have the ball because they weren't going anywhere. But just if an experienced player gets that, I don't think he gives the penalty away.
Yeah.
But a young guy making his debut, and it comes down to that. And as Christopher O'Neill says, like, was it a foul? Like, had they missed the knock on? It should have been a scrum to Connacht. If it was an advantage, when was it over? Did we know?
Yeah, it's a good point. A really good point. It's one of the many times things I missed. Yeah, what I like about what you're saying there, and you jump back in if you want to, but I think is just that you say, I'm not sure this is a similar example to other wet nights. It was a different set of parameters here. I think that's the key. Really. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I think if this was a game like Edinburgh that they had to win it to keep any hopes alive, I think you might have seen a different game and you would have seen a different team out there as well. So I think it's always very hard.
I don't think we played the conditions that badly. In comparison to other games, especially in comparison to the Ulster game, we didn't play them that badly. I have to say, if we're going to be frank about who played the conditions well, Edinburgh were dire in the second half.
The first half, those box kicks, Gary Owens.
I mean, yeah, that was just... I mean, if you talk about not playing the conditions, Edinburgh won that game despite having absolutely no concept of how to play here at all.
They also took the option of not having to win the first half. Connacht did that more recently. That's one thing you never do at the sports ground. Take the wind when it's there.
That's true. You absolutely have to. But I mean, they didn't really. Considering we blew a lot of chances, but the first 25 minutes of that game were entirely played in their 22. Now they very ventured into their 22, and when they did, they knocked on. They dropped the ball. We worked the ball up to it. Then we would make a mistake, and that was the problem. We
barely had a decent backline move in the entire game. I mean, even the move that won the game was a complete breakdown. Everything going wrong. And a 20-year-old out-half with dancing feet who scored a hat-trick, you told me in the notes, against Welsh under-20s last year, proved his talent.
He's a lovely little player. To be fair,
Nathan Chamberlain.
Nathan Chamberlain is. He took a tackle from Papa Lahi, and I thought, oh God, he's dead. Because he got absolutely creamed. I thought they ran onto him, they checked him out. I thought he's going off. He got up, and fair play to him. He came back and he scored the winning try. I thought they were. I think if we're going to be honest about it, we were bad. But geez, let's not have Edinburgh down as world beaters.
Two teams played poorly, one bit of class right at the end.
Let's be frank. It was
And a red card.
In horrendous conditions. Like, again, you have to say.
It's lovely. What are you on about?
Talk about how horrendous at one stage we could barely see the pitch. The rain was coming down at such an angle.
As we wrap up, Linley first. I do like what Andy Friend did here tonight. I do like the fact he made 9 changes. I still like it even after the defeat. I'm a bit concerned by the fact that they didn't see it out, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
Oh, absolutely not. I think he did the right thing. You know, you've got players there. I mean, let's face it, it's been a pretty shite year for everybody with
Call it.
You know, it's been a pretty shite year. It has, for COVID, everything. So you've got players. So
Jelly baby year.
So you've got players there, and these new players coming in who've been, twiddling their bloody thumbs for most of the season. So they still have to. They're still professionals. They still have to go to training every week. They still have to train like they're going to perform, and a lot of them haven't had that opportunity. So I think he did absolutely the right thing. He patted a few of them on the back, said, it's your time, go out there, experience it, give you a little bit of hope coming into the end of the season for the start of the next, or for whatever is coming around the corner, whether it's Rainbow Cup or whatever, who knows.
Brilliant. Well, I'm smiling there because remember myself and yourself in the Aviva Stadium debating on whether Connacht should change their team after the great win over Ulster, and you were like, players need some game time. Give them a chance, and you're back on it now. And I think at this stage I'm turned 180 and fully agree with you. Dave?
Players need rest. Some guys have played on ridiculous amount of rugby.
The likes of John Porch now, I'm just glad he wasn't anywhere near the place tonight. He needs a rest.
But also, there are 13 teams in this league where the young players will learn an awful lot more about who they are and what they have to do and where they are going as professional rugby by defeats. The only team that doesn't do that is Leinster, because somehow everybody they
never stop losing.
they never stop losing. No, I think a lot of that.
Except for when they're playing Connacht at Christmas.
I was going to say a lot of that is down to the fact that people see the blue shirts or whatever colour that other kit is. that Leinster. But Leinster are the only team that can put guys in their first games on and have be fairly certain that team will win. Everybody else is you just don't know.
Munster maybe as well. In fairness, the top.
Munster as well, but I don't think it'd come here with a team full of kids.
No, fair point actually.
But I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens now. Again, we've a game coming up on Monday week where there are 2 games going on at the same time. We're the only team where it doesn't matter. The Scarlets will definitely will need it to hold on to third, and Cardiff are playing Edinburgh. So the Scarlets might well send out as strong a team as they can possibly can. We could legitimately go to them and go, do you know what, we're sending over under 19s. They need game time. Some of them want to play in the under 19 Six Nations.
I remember watching Match Today in the old days, or BBC Grandstand, when the final day football was on, the relegation days, and you'd have like teams there, like nothing to play for, but they're there to watch their team relegate the other team. Connacht are in there just to mess up Scarlet's day.
Well, that is the problem. I think Connacht can't be seen to just send over a team.
Oh, good point.
Good point. I mean, that isn't fair to the competition.
But I'd say Andy Friend won't want to after tonight.
I don't think he will. But I think he might just produce a similar type of team.
Just a bit of a mix it up.
Absolutely. And so he should. But he has to take it seriously. He can't be seen in the Pro 14 not to. And it's not fair on any teams competing in it.
I don't want to, people wherever they're listening, you're out for your walk, you're driving. You're not driving far if you're driving, but wherever you are and listening to this, I don't want to kind of ruin your mood as we leave you, but Jared Butler's likely to miss the Challenge Cup game against Leicester, according to William. Isn't he right there, 3 weeks?
Assuming that, they uphold the red card and everything's fine, it looks like he's not going to be there.
Huge loss.
It depends what day it's played. If it's played on a Sunday, he'd be back.
Really? Are we still at the 3 weeks?
Whether they do it by games or...
Oh, games, then they need...
Vary that. Okay.
Yeah, I have something. Yeah. I thought some of our players played really well. I thought Niall Murray had a great game, and I'm going to call him Murray just for Dave.
I've come up with a way of saying it in the commentary that doesn't sound too like Murray. I've kind of gone Niall Murray, and it just works.
Okay, fair enough. Cian Prendergast I thought did well, and even Orman Nutti did really well. I know there was a penalty at the end, but he got himself out of bad trouble over in the far corner and just before that.
One tackle around the ankles on the player. At one point I was like, oh, well done, went low, took him down. Yeah, he was good.
And of course Sean O'Brien was superb. Sean Garrett O'Brien.
He's a really good player.
2 hours, 2 T's.
William did point out that it took himself and Tom Daly a while to just get their spacing right, if you like, but that's all part of the learning curve. But my God, going forward he was excellent. Okay, anything else?
We got some great props.
We have some great props.
Really great props. And we got
Duncan and Connor Kenny came on there and they both played.
Think about it. We have four tight heads now.
Johnny Murphy has never started for Connacht. He's due a start at some point. I thought he was excellent.
Maybe, and this is going to sound radical. Let John, wouldn't be radically damaging to the competition if Johnny Murphy started against the Scarlets.
We'll see how it all works out. Lindley, you need to get warm. You're looking at me like, is it over? I love talking on this podcast, Rob, but I also like going home.
Oh no, I do love talking on this podcast. Of course,
we appreciate your.
I'm just a little chilly.
We all are. So I'm going to go home. I have a shop to run tomorrow. You've stuff to do. We're back on during the week, and we're previewing a game that's on a Monday night. Stop doing that. Please stop doing that, Pro 14. But you can still do that if you sort out the Rainbow Cup for William, because I think he's going to have a breakdown if he has to come on another podcast and talk about 56 games and 1 final. That's all I heard in the podcast coming driving up there this evening. And you know what? His point is well made. 56 games for 1 bloody final.
But every competition ends up with 1 final.
I know, but can we have 1 knockout game out of 56? I mean, and listen, by the way, just to reiterate what was said last week, Dan McFarland, spot on. Connacht, Ulster, they deserve to be in playoffs. They deserve to be there. Outrageous decision. All right, that's it from us.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused. Don't wait until you